Most traders think they're losing money because they don't know enough. They think if they just read one more book, watch one more course, study one more indicator, they'll finally crack the code. But that's not why they're losing. They're losing because they've confused activity with progress. They've confused consumption with learning. They've mistaken motion for movement. Let me explain what I mean. You spend 3 hours watching trading videos. You take notes. You screenshot charts. You bookmark tutorials. You feel productive. You feel like you're getting better. But here's the question. What did you actually do? You consumed information. That's it. You didn't test anything. You didn't risk anything. You didn't learn anything about yourself under pressure. You just absorbed someone else's interpretation of markets and filed it away in your brain like it's going to matter when your account is down 15% and your palms are sweating. It won't, because trading isn't an information problem. It's an execution problem. An execution can't be learned by watching. It can only be learned by doing. Think about it. You can watch 1,000 videos on how to swim. You can study stroke mechanics. You can memorize breathing patterns. You can understand the physics of buoyancy. But the first time you jump in the water, none of that saves you from panic. Your body doesn't know what your brain knows. Your nervous system hasn't adapted. You haven't built the muscle memory, the reflexes, the calm that comes from repetition. Trading is the same. You can know everything about support and resistance, candlestick patterns, volume analysis, risk management. But when you're in a trade and it moves against you, all that knowledge evaporates. What remains is your nervous system, and your nervous system doesn't care what you know. It cares what you've practiced. Here's what actually happens when you're in a losing trade. Price drops below your entry. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing gets shallow. Your thoughts start racing. Should I get out? Should I hold? What if it keeps going? What if it reverses right after I exit? You're not thinking about the strategy you learned in that YouTube video anymore. You're in fight or flight mode. And in that state, you will do whatever feels safe in the moment, not what's correct according to your plan. You'll exit early because the discomfort is unbearable, or you'll hold too long because admitting the loss feels worse than watching it grow. Neither decision is strategic. Both are emotional, and emotional decisions in trading are almost always wrong. But here's the thing. That emotional response isn't a flaw in your character. It's not a sign that you're weak or undisciplined. It's just your nervous system doing exactly what it's evolved to do: protect you from perceived threats. The problem is your brain can't tell the difference between a losing trade and a physical danger. Both trigger the same stress response. Both flood your system with cortisol and adrenaline. Both push you toward immediate action to escape discomfort. And that's why knowledge doesn't help. Because knowledge lives in your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of your brain. But under stress, that part goes offline. Control shifts to your amygdala, the emotional, reactive part. And your amygdala doesn't care about your trading plan. It just wants the discomfort to stop. So how do you fix this? You can't fix it with more information. You can't think your way out of a nervous system response. You can only desensitize yourself through exposure. You have to put yourself in that uncomfortable state repeatedly until your nervous system learns that a losing trade isn't a life-threatening event. That's the only way. You have to train your body, not just your mind, and that requires actual trading. Small positions, real money, real emotional stakes, not demo accounts, not paper trading, real execution where losses actually hurt. Because that's the only environment where your nervous system activates. That's the only place where you can practice emotional regulation under real conditions. Most traders avoid this. They stay in the learning phase forever. They keep watching videos, reading books, analyzing charts. They tell themselves they're not ready yet. They need to learn just a little more before they risk real money. But that's a trap, because the learning phase feels safe. It feels productive. It doesn't cost you anything except time. But it also doesn't build the one skill that actually matters, the ability to execute under pressure. And you can't build that skill without pressure. Here's the brutal truth. Every hour you spend consuming content is an hour you're not spending building execution skills. Every video you watch is a missed opportunity to take a trade and learn something about your own psychology. Every course you buy is another delay in facing the only challenge that matters, yourself. I'm not saying education is useless. I'm saying it has a point of diminishing returns. And most traders blow past that point years ago. They know enough, they've known enough for a long time. What they lack isn't knowledge, it's reps. They need repetition. They need to take the same setup 50 times and see how they react on trade 1 versus trade 25 versus trade 50. They need to watch their emotional patterns evolve. They need to notice that on trade 10, they still panic when price pulls back, but by trade 30, that same pullback feels normal. That's progress. That's actual skill development. But you can't get there by watching someone else do it. Let's say you finally decide to start trading. You've consumed enough content, you've built a strategy, you're ready to execute. First trade, you enter. Price immediately moves against you. Trio, you feel the panic rising, but you hold. You stick to your plan. Price hits your stop loss. You exit. You lose money. How do you feel? Probably terrible. You're doubting everything. Maybe the strategy doesn't work. Maybe you entered wrong. Maybe trading isn't for you. But here's what actually just happened. You did everything right. You executed your plan. You took the loss according to your rules. You didn't panic exit. You didn't move your stop. You didn't let emotions override your system. That's a win, not financially, but psychologically. So, you just proved to your nervous system that you can take a loss and survive. That's the real lesson. That's the skill you're building. But most traders don't see it that way. They see a loss as failure. So they go back to learning mode. They think they need to fix their strategy. They start watching videos again for the missing piece, and they just reset their progress to 0. Because the issue wasn't the strategy. The issue was they needed more reps. They needed to take that same setup 10 more times to see if it's actually profitable over a sample size. They needed to experience more losses to desensitize their fear response. But instead, they bailed after one trade. They mistook a single data point for a conclusion. And now they're back in consumption mode, stuck in the loop that keeps them from ever developing real skill. Here's the pattern. Learn. Attempt, fail, retreat, learn more. Attempt again, fail again, retreat again. This cycle can go on for years, and it will go on for years until you realize that failure isn't a sign you need more information. It's a sign you need more repetition. Every losing trade is data. Every uncomfortable moment is training. Every time you feel the urge to exit early and don't, you're building emotional resilience. That's the actual work of trading. Not learning more setups, not finding better indicators, not discovering some secret strategy that nobody else knows about. The work is sitting with discomfort and not reacting. It's watching your account fluctuate and not panicking. It's taking losses and not spiraling into self-doubt. And you cannot learn that from a video. You have to live it repeatedly until your nervous system adapts. So here's what you do. You stop consuming. Right now, you take whatever strategy you currently have, even if it's simple, even if it feels incomplete, and you trade it. Small size, real money. You commit to 50 trades minimum before you change anything. Not 5 trades, not 10 trades, 50 trades. Because that's the minimum sample size, where you'll start to see patterns in your psychology, in your strategy's performance. You journal every trade, not just entry and exit. You write down how you felt, what you were thinking, what you wanted to do versus what you actually did. You track your emotional state as carefully as you track your P&L. And after 50 trades, you review, not the strategy first, your psychology first. Where did you deviate from the plan? When did you feel most uncomfortable? What emotional patterns keep repeating? That's your real data. That's what you optimize, not the strategy, yourself. Because here's the secret nobody wants to hear. Most strategies work, really. Most basic trend-following systems are profitable over time if you execute them consistently. The reason traders fail isn't because their strategy is bad. It's because they can't execute it consistently. They deviate. They second-guess. They override. And they do that because their nervous system hasn't been trained. So stop looking for a better strategy. Start building a better you. A you that can sit through drawdown. A you that can take losses without emotional collapse. A you that can execute the plan even when it feels wrong. That version of you isn't created by learning more. It's created by doing more, by repetition, by exposure, by proving to yourself over and over that you can handle discomfort. That's the real edge in trading, not information. Emotional resilience, and you build it one uncomfortable trade at a time, right at a time.